Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Tuesday. It's 10 p.m. You already know. Last week we're off. I had a different host in here. We took a little to a different level, but we are back this week in the house. Paul Spencer, Joey the Hitman Woods. Joey, how you feeling, brother? How you feeling today? I haven't seen you in a while, so
Yeah, it's
how
been
you
a
been?
little while. I was on a hiatus there for a little while. It's good. It's good to be back. Had to come back in and take back over the show again. But it feels good to be back. I appreciate you guys covering for me last week. Feels good to be back though.
Definitely, man. Would you go on vacation or would you go with someone with the family?
Just wasn't feeling in the right mindset
Okay.
last week. So I just needed like a kind of step away. Also, I'm currently going to school,
Mm-hmm.
and last week was the first week of a new semester.
There we go.
So it was a brand new class, and as you go on in this classes, it kind of gets a little more intense with the work that's due. So
Okay.
last week kind of kicked my ass a little bit with the work that was due.
Sounds good, Joey. First and foremost, I'm glad you're back, man. Hoping hope you got that little time off out there. It's needed for a lot of people, and I'm glad you got your time away. Just take care of yourself first and foremost, number one. And this is a rock and roll tonight, man. I'm glad you're back. Glad we're talking about it. Let's hop into it,
If
Joey.
only work was that understanding.
Yeah, I know it's hard. It's weird how people don't understand that. People out there have issues or whatever they do, in their natural life, and people don't understand that. But
Yeah.
we got. I'm
As
glad
the
you're back,
saying
Joey.
goes, Paul, the saying goes though, they'll have you replaced before your coffin's even closed, which is the truth.
Exactly. It's definitely true. It's sad to say that, but it definitely is true out there. It's just like a job is not even security anymore. No matter what and how you perform, it's just you're always replaceable no matter what. It's just like a revolving door out there, Joey. It really
Yep.
is. It's sad to
You get
say, but
cheaper and younger. That's all they look for.
exactly. It's hard for the people that's been there for years and years, and all of a sudden, they're replaced by a guy that makes half the money. And it's just a body that they can call cheaper and whatever. But
Yeah, it's really hard out here for a pimp.
it is, man. Pimping's hard out there, brother. Well, let's get into it, Joey. 279 here, man. What do you think about this whole card? Before a quick record, there's Linda. Linda just checked into our fantasy draft show. Linda, now we're talking UFC. So I know it's not your cup of tea, but we thank you for tuning in. We appreciate that. Definitely do. But Joey, let's talk about UFC 279 here. Not the biggest card. I think really top two fights, the main event and co-main event, are pretty much the only thing we're really looking at here. What do you see on this card, or is there any other fight
Yeah,
that catches your eye?
it's a head scratcher a little bit, because like this card isn't overly stacked,
Mm-hmm.
but meanwhile 280 is
Wow.
maybe one of the most stacked cards in the history of the company. So you're
Yeah.
just wondering, like, maybe you take three matches because that card is, I'm trying to think, one, two, three, four, five fights deep, where
Mm,
every single fight could be
yes.
a main event. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just wondering, maybe they could have took. Uh,
My husband
that's
has been
always
teaching me UFC. That's good. That's good. Maybe you know what? Maybe one day we can have you hop on a show or your husband on here. You're more than welcome. People with UFC knowledge. Hey, we love to have you on here. UFC is a cup of tea for not everyone, and I'm glad you're learning it, honestly. But go ahead, Joey.
Yeah. So I just wish maybe they took like two or three fights from that card, moved it over here, maybe
Mm-hmm.
balanced it out a little bit. They tend to do that sometimes, though. Like they want to make one card like so stacked and I get it because of locations. 279 I believe is Las Vegas, where
Mm-hmm.
they kind of have all the uh all the fights, so they didn't really stack it because the fights sell there regardless.
Right. Right.
280 is Abu Dhabi. They want to kind of stack the fights because of there. So I get it, but I wish they would have kind of balanced it out a little bit. And unfortunately, with the way the UFC model is now, you have to have a pay per view every month. There's a pay per view every single
Mm-hmm.
month. So unfortunately, this is what happens sometimes. When you have two, because the last card was pretty good too.
It
The
was. It
Usman
was.
card was good too. So when you have back to back to back to back cards, it's what was that?
Oh, that was my other phone. I was turning it off. It's
Oh,
my. It was my niece checking in. She was like, "Can we play a game tonight?"
uh, I thought it was me talking. Um,
Here's a question, Joey. Okay, I have a question, guys. Has there ever been a UFC fighter around 300 pounds?
yes, UFC 1, there was a sumo wrestler versus a kickboxer, and the
What was his name?
kickboxer, I forget, but he got his teeth knocked down his throat. A kick dead to the face. Because here's
Wow.
the thing, when UFC first started, it was the ultimate fighting championship. So
Hmm.
literally every single fighting style was represented in the tournament. They had boxing, they had kickboxing, they had jiu-jitsu, they had sumo, they had every style of fighting possible, and they wanted to see what the best fighting style was,
Mm.
hence the name the Ultimate Fighting
Right,
Championship.
right. Okay.
They wanted to see what fighting style was the ultimate. So the UFC 1 probably to like 5 was really, it was unregulated. It was,
Joey, his name was Emmanuel Yarborough.
yeah, he was a big boy. He was more than 300 pounds.
He was, holy shit. Joey, 704 pounds.
Yeah, he was a sumo wrestler. He was legit a
Yes.
sumo wrestler.
704 pounds, Joey.
John McCain,
Wasn't Butterbean in there too? Am I right or wrong? Was Butterbean
he
ever
was
up?
in MMA before he was. I don't think he was UFC,
Okay.
but he was in MMA. But John McCain used to call it human cockfighting, because for a while there was no regulation. There was
Hmm.
groin shots, kick to the faces, stomps to the head when they were on the ground. Like everything was legal. It was a fight, and you were fighting until you were incapacitated. So I mean, it was definitely a wild sport back then. But
That's well, can you imagine Joey going off here? But since you mentioned Yarborough, I just looked up his name. My God, 740 pounds or 704 pounds, Joey. How do you like even today, Joey? Even today, if that was even sanctioned in a way, how do you go about fighting a 700-pound guy, Joey?
the
I mean,
exact way that the guy did. So the 700 pounder ran full speed at him. This guy
he
sidestepped
ran.
him.
He ran, Joey.
This guy sidestepped him and kicked him in the face and knocked him out.
I gotta
Shattered
find
his
that. I gotta
teeth.
find that. Wow,
Yeah, it
that's
was wild. But if you watch, like I believe when UFC first started, they were only regulated in Denver. So they were
mhm,
only, their fighting capital was Denver, Colorado. If you look
wow.
back, like UFC 1 through 5, it was Denver. And
Mm,
then that's when Gracie became real big, because like
mhm,
Gracie was one of the smallest guys in the tournament, and they're like, because it was one night, Paul. It was, the tournament started one night and it ended one night. And if you
wow.
couldn't compete the next fight, they had a
Mhm.
replacement in the back for you, and
That's
they would switch you
wow.
out.
That's like
So
having a gauntlet fight in one night. Like you win
yeah,
one, you're still fighting a better fighter in the next round. That's
yeah.
insane.
So Gracie's this little scrawny dude who doesn't really know how to throw strikes, knows Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he's tapping everyone out.
Hmm.
He's putting everyone in these grappling moves that you never seen before. And that's where Shamrock became real
Hmm.
big, early on in the UFC, when,
Right.
because Shamrock was a little better well-rounded than everyone else. He was good with the striking, but he was also good on the ground, could hold his own on the ground a little better than the average fighter.
Hmm.
So he was a little better. I mean, there was a guy, Art Jimerson, his name was. He fought with one boxing glove and one bare hand.
Wow, I gotta
That's
look
how he
into that. I've never
fought.
seen that. Wow, that's insane.
UFC 1, Paul, is, if you get a chance to watch it ever back, if
Hmm.
you have like Fight Pass, it's like $9 a month.
I
You
got
can
all the
watch
channels I can find. Yeah.
you can watch every UFC from one until now.
Okay.
And like the first couple of UFCs are really crazy. Do you know the ref Big John McCarthy?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's the one that actually introduced rules into the sport of MMA.
Really?
He's the one that helped create the rules to get UFC sanctioned in other sports, in other
Wow.
states. Because for a while there, they weren't allowed in New York. Probably until like maybe even 10 years ago, they weren't allowed in New
Hmm.
York.
Right.
New
Right.
York, the commission. So he came up with a set of rules that allowed the UFC to be considered a sport
Hmm.
and go to other parts of the country. So
Wow,
he
I
was a
never knew
big
that about
pioneer
McCarthy.
of the UFC and the MMA. Yeah, he was a big deal.
Oh, I never knew that. Wow, that's insane. Hmm.
Yeah, watch it back. One through, I would say 1 through like 10 gets is good, but then like when you start getting like Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz, like that's when the fun starts. Like when you have like when they have marketable superstars that get behind. Like
Hmm.
that's when you start to see the UFC hype train really pick up, and like you see Joe Rogan as a young
Right. Right.
20-year-old dude doing the fights and stuff.
Hmm. That's insane. We got another comment. Linda's chiming in. if there was a UFC fighter, who would you love to see in the ring, and who would it be? Past
Mm,
fighters only.
I
I'll let
got
you go
one.
first.
I'll let you
Go
go.
ahead.
I'll let you go
Go ahead.
first.
I think I know where you're going to go. It's not the
I'll have.
obvious, is it? It's not the obvious, is it?
It's not. I think I'm gonna go. It's gonna shock a lot of people, but there was a bad man back in the day. His name was Tank Abbott. He
Wow.
was
Wow.
a animal. He was one of the stars before UFC really hit it big,
Mhm.
and he was a fun guy to watch. He was a beer belly dude who didn't look like he really belonged in the ring, but when his hands started to fly,
Yes.
he would drop people.
Fist of Steel. Yeah. Mm. That's going old school. Tank Abbott. Wow. If it was me, Joey, I'm probably going to have to go old school as well. I'll probably have to go Chuck Liddell.
Yeah, I figured you were gonna say that because he's just
I, I mean, just watching him, just the persona of someone
the
like Chuck
first true
Liddell.
superstar, Paul. He was their
Exactly.
first true
Mhm.
superstar. He was their first guy
He was the
who
face, Joey. He was the face that really much like
but
flipped
even
a
forget
lot of
the
people.
face, Paul, because there was
Mhm.
faces before that. Like Ken Shamrock was the face at one point.
That's one of the other
Royce
ones I was going to say. Yep.
Royce Gracie was a face at one point. But
Hmm.
they didn't transcend the sport. Chuck Liddell was the first face that transcended the sport and became popular outside of the cage.
Hmm.
He was doing the rally cars at the NASCAR fights, or he was on red
Hmm.
carpet premieres. He was the first true fighter that
Hmm.
actually branched out and kind of made UFC bigger outside of the sport overall, which
Hmm.
was rare at that point because a lot of people were still turning their nose to it.
Yeah, a lot of people did. I mean,
Remember how
that's why
cool that
when
was back in the day, like when it was on like Spike TV and stuff. It was the coolest thing, and they were like tap out gear and stuff. Like growing up as a
yes.
kid watching it, like I remember watching it with my dad and stuff. Like it was the coolest thing in the world to watch. Like as a 10-year-old kid, like watching it on Spike TV, like a channel that I shouldn't be watching anyway. My mom wasn't home from work yet, so me and my dad would watch it on Spike TV. Like it was the best thing in the world.
Yeah, I remember that Spike TV. Oh my God, that's going way back in the. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I have to say Chuck Liddell. I mean, just like you said,
Yeah,
his persona and a lot of people hated him, a lot of people loved him. But to me, he was a true icon in the UFC statement. I mean, the inside the ring, of course, and outside the ring, just as you said, he did a lot for the sport. He did a
yeah.
lot, definitely a
He's
lot.
kind of the first one, Paul. Remember how we talk about a lot how the sport around it kind of evolves past you. He was kind of the first guy we saw where he was on top
Mhm.
forever, and then the sport kind of just passed him by. He just
Mhm.
kept getting better and better until he no longer could compete anymore. He was
Mhm.
the best for a while, but then yeah, guys like Rashad Evans and stuff come in who could do it all. They could grapple, they could stand up, they could throw their hands. And he really didn't have a place anymore in the UFC because this was just a brawler who, sure, he was good at grappling, but these other dudes could do it all. And they kind of just surpassed him and left him in the dust.
Mhm. I
Him
hear
and
you.
Tito, that feud,
Tito
him and
Ortiz. Oh man,
Tito,
that feud was insane. Holy
best
crap.
friends for a while there, turned bitter enemies. It was like a
Yes,
storybook.
it
And
was. That was like an ESPN 30 for 30. Like my
they made it
God.
30 for 30 on
That's
that,
what I'm
Paul.
saying. That's what I'm saying. It was just insane. Like
That
you
30 for 30 was
oh,
good.
it was. I watched it. It was insane.
What's your
If you
favorite?
get a chance,
Before we get off topic here, I'm gonna have to ask you
Mhm.
favorite 30 for 30. What's yours?
I just recently watched it, honestly. The
What
Teo
is it?
thing. The Teo thing.
Well, it's not a 30 for 30. That's a Netflix one.
Well, I call it a 30 for 30 because it was like a mini series, but
Yeah,
mm,
my favorite 30 for 30 from ESPN is the Elway
oh,
to Marino.
I didn't see
That
that one, Joey.
that draft class where they looked at all the big names. That was like, I mean, that was John Elway, that was Dan Marino, that was Jim Kelly. They all came out of that same
Wow.
draft.
That was 84, right?
I think so. They did a whole special on that draft, and it
That's
was it was really
insane.
good.
Wow, that's hard. I really don't
Or
watch a lot of
or how
ESPN 30
about
for 30.
how about The Last Dance? That was a good one.
That's when I would have to say the Chicago Bull ones. I mean, that was like more of a mini series to me, but
Helped me get
that
through
was
COVID in
insane.
the beginning.
What's that?
It helped me get through COVID in the beginning. When we were all stuck in the house, there was nothing to do. That was the only thing I
Hmm.
had to look forward to every week was, oh, there's another Last Dance on tonight. Like, because there was nothing on TV. There was no sports.
Yeah, yeah.
There was nothing new being made because you couldn't make film. You couldn't make movies. So
Hmm.
the only thing to watch was this documentary series that came out once a week.
Well, speaking of that, Joey, I know we're going off subject with that, The Last Dance. Did that change your persona of Jordan I mean, we all know he's the GOAT,
No.
my eyes. I don't know how you feel about it. A lot of people say other people, but to me, he's the GOAT. Did that change your persona of Jordan in a way? Like a lot of people looked at, he's an asshole. He was a dictator. He wanted this and that. To
But
me, he
you
was a,
don't
he
get to
was he
that
was a
point.
true leader. He was a true leader. And if you didn't, Joey, if you're on the show with me and you didn't do your homework, I'm going to get kind of mad. That's the way Jordan was. You know what I mean? Jordan
Yeah.
was a
But you
a
don't get to
leader.
that point, Paul. You don't get to 6. I mean, no, you can't say 6 in a row, but technically it
Mhm.
was 6 in a row for him
It
because
was
those years he didn't win, they didn't win, he wasn't there. So
exactly.
realistically, it was 6 in a row for him. You don't get to 6 in a row if
Hmm.
you're not being a dick, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And to get to the top, you're going to have to step on people to get to the top, and that's exactly what he did.
Hmm.
It didn't change my perception of Jordan at all. It honestly just nailed home what I've already known about him,
True.
that he was a degenerate gambler. I knew that already. I still
Joey, I
think
don't know.
his
Joey, you
his
remember
dad
before I
had a
used
little
you
bit to do
remember
with
you remember
gambling.
before I used to work at the casinos, even when I was coaching football back in the day. He used to go down there at the old time during the Sands Casino, and his marker was $1 million, Joey. When I was a pit boss down there, he was actually go to the thing, sit right at the table, and we weren't allowed to talk to him, nothing at all. He was just like, "How you doing, sir?" Nothing at all. And I remember one time, Joe, he came there. It was with him, Scottie Pippen, and what was that guy? The sharpshooter, Hodges, Craig Hodges, I think it was. They all sat there, Joey, and Pippen got like maybe a $50,000 marker. Hodges got like 10,000. Michael Jordan's marker, I remember putting it in there, and then I hit the button and it said $1 million marker. He was a huge gambler, and he
Yeah,
lost that in about 3 hours,
I
and
mean,
then
some people still
called
think
for more.
his dad's disappearance and death, unfortunately, had a
Yeah.
little bit to do with his gambling and not being able to pay on some of his dues.
Hmm.
Some people truly believe that, which after that docu series and reading up on it, I don't say it's impossible at this point.
Hmm.
They're saying it was
I
like a
agree.
mob hit or something. But overall, I think it was great. It just nailed home what we already knew about him and stuff.
It did.
And
It did.
I'm so tired of hearing this thing about the goat and stuff. Basketball, every era is different, and I
Hmm.
think there's one goat of every error. You can't say there's one goat because
True.
I don't
True.
know if Michael Jordan could play in this era. It's a lot more faster. It's a
Hmm.
lot less physical. It's a lot. I just think it's different. Like I don't think LeBron could play in that era. I also don't think. Well, I think maybe like later eras they could all play and they would probably dominate it.
Hmm.
But every era of basketball is different, and I just
That's
think for
that
for them
is
to
so true. That's so true, Joey. You look at, I really didn't see Wilt Chamberlain play. Of course he was a man among men, boys playing, averaging 50 points, 30 rebounds a game. But you put him in today's league where it's all sharpshooters, Curry, it's one shot or miss. So you're not really going to, a big man doesn't dominate like Joel does anymore. It's very unforeseen. Then you
yeah.
put Magic and Bird. Bird couldn't run. I think he
I
would be
think
okay as a
I think
sharpshooter, but
Bird. I now here's the thing. I think Bird might have translated better to today's game than he did back in the day.
yeah,
I
more
do
shooting. Hmm.
because it's a lot more shooting. And I think he would be able. He was a great pass. People don't look at that. The dude
Exactly.
averaged 10 assists a game usually. Like
Yes,
people don't look
as a
at that.
power forward, as a
Like
power forward.
unfortunately, like the saying goes, Larry Bird's not white, he's clear. Like
True,
that's what they
true.
said about him, like Larry Bird's not white, he's clear. Like
Hmm.
people gonna get off the motion that Larry Bird was the greatest white player. Larry Bird's one of the top 20 greatest players
Of
ever,
all time,
regardless
yes.
of race.
Hmm.
Regardless of race.
Yep.
But he's definitely the greatest white player ever, but regardless of race, he's top
Hmm.
20
Yeah, I
ever.
agree.
Maybe
I
even
agree with
top
that.
10, arguably top 10.
I have him
But
in my top. I have him in my top. I'm not going to say Wilt Chamberlain because I didn't see him play, Joey. I didn't see players like that. So to me, I would probably have to put him. I would put him in my top six. Definitely, I definitely have to. I definitely have to put Larry Bird in my top six, no matter what.
well, your top 5 for me is Michael,
Hmm.
um,
LeBron, Kobe.
LeBron. I don't have Kobe at 3.
I don't. I have Kobe at. This is a debate, Joey. This is a debate we'll get into some other day. I have
Yeah,
Kobe. I have Kobe ahead of LeBron. I really do.
really.
I do. I'd have him ahead of LeBron. Yep.
You have Steph in your top 10?
In my top 10 of all time?
Yeah. I
Hmm.
think it's getting hard now, but we have a UFC comment right here, Paul.
All right, let's get back to UFC. We'll talk about this later. I would love to see George St. Pierre back, and even you. Is that yourself or your husband there? George St. Pierre. Wow,
He
that's
said
going
it's
kind of.
Linda's husband, by the way.
Okay, there we go. Okay. What do you think about that? What do you think about George St. Pierre? I mean, that's pretty cool.
I
That
think
name.
he's one of the, even if he got no better and he was just the exact same fighter but younger
Hmm.
that he was back in the day, I think he's one of the few superstars from back in the day
Hmm.
that would truly be able to still compete now. Like he was ahead of his time
He was.
with putting everything together and being a true mixed martial artist. And I think he would still at this point in time. If he was
Hmm.
a 28-year-old dude, I think he's right up there with Usman fighting for the belt at this point. Like I think he was that good of a fighter. He got a little cuckoo towards the end there and like
He did.
abruptly just stepped away out of nowhere. No, everyone was kind of left scratching their head like this dude just retired at the top of his, and it came out of it came out of absolutely nowhere. It was
Hmm.
the Hendricks fight, Johnny Hendricks. He just retired. No one understood why. There was rumblings that he got a chick pregnant, and
Mm.
he knew if he kept fighting, he had to pay ridiculous child support. So that's why he
Wow.
stepped away from the sport. But other people were saying that he was losing his mind and being abducted by aliens and stuff. Like this dude was
Ooh.
crazy.
No, speaking of that, I did read someone's article. I don't know if it was like a hoax thing or whatever, just BS, but somebody did say that a lot of UFC fighters are, just like you said, are stepping away or taking time away from it because all the damage that they take to the head, the kicks, the punches, that just like you said, he's seen ghosts and aliens that I forgot. I'll have to look at it after we get off here. I'll look at it, the article, if I can find it again. And they said one UFC fighter, unnamed, said that he was every night he would go to sleep and fear for his life that people were outside trying to kill him. And even a doctor, a therapist said that a lot of
I think
UFC
this was
fighters are going
recently. I
through
think
this.
this was recently.
It was. I read it maybe like a week and a
It
half
was
ago or something.
Ferguson. It was Tony Ferguson, Paul.
Was it?
There were videos of him ripping his walls down, and they were asking what he was
Hmm.
doing, and he was saying that the government was hiding
Maybe that's what it
listening
was.
the government was hiding listening devices in his walls to spy on him.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
Joey, he better get serious because he has a fight coming up.
See, but here's the thing. CTE is less rampant in MMA than it is in boxing.
Hmm.
Because here's the thing. In boxing, right? You get hit with a shot, you fall down for 10 seconds, you answer the 10 count, you
Right.
get back up, you're still wobbly,
Right.
but
All the ref comes over to you and checks your hands. If you're good to go, you're back
you're
in.
good to
You got
go.
a 10-second rest.
UFC, if you get dropped, that
Yes.
guy's on top of you, punching you a couple times, and then it's
Hmm.
done. You don't get back up. You don't get a chance to continue. So that's the difference. It's a repeated trauma with the boxing that you don't get in the MMA side of it, which
Hmm.
they're saying that the CTE is probably a little more severe in boxing than it is in MMA. Here's another thing: the gloves. The gloves. People don't realize this. Boxing gloves are not made to protect fighters' faces. Boxing gloves were made to protect the fighter's hands.
Exactly.
That's their
Hmm.
moneymaker. Those wrists, those hands, those knuckles, people's are those boxers' moneymakers. So
Hmm.
the MMA gloves cause a little bit less trauma to the face than a boxing glove would, and people don't realize that. But those boxing gloves hurt a little bit more than those MMA gloves, even though the padding's smaller.
Right.
It hurts a little bit less.
Right. I agree. I mean, it's a totally different animal, but let's jump into this, Joey. Since you spoke about Ferguson here, Tony Ferguson versus
Yeah.
my man Jingling. I call him Jingling. But how do you feel about this one? I mean, my man, if the IRS and government's out to get you, and you're going into a co-main event here at UFC 279, Joey, how do you think he's going to come into this? Is this some mind games that he's playing where he's
Well,
playing
this
a little
wasn't
cat and
last fight.
mouse?
This was after one of his other beatdowns. He took a little bit of a hiatus, and for a while he was like
Mm.
losing his mind. But
Okay.
I mean, this isn't a co-main event in a pay-per-view. I'm
It's
sorry. This
not.
is
No, it's not. I mean, we spoke about this card. It's not. It's not. It's just a.
it's a
I don't know. It's
filler.
just
Like you have to
it's a filling
you
event. It's a
have to
fill
because here's
fill the
the
card
thing.
event.
This fight card that was last weekend might be better than this card. And that was
Yeah,
a free
we
fight card.
yes, that fight
Seriously.
night was a lot better than what we're seeing here, Joey. I agree with that 100%. I
The
agree with
UFC
that.
is trying to capitalize on the popularity of Diaz because they know that Diaz sells fights, and they know that there's that rumor out there this is Diaz's last fight ever in the UFC. So
Mhm.
they're trying to capitalize on that and make money off of that. Which hey, I'm not mad at. But for people who aren't a huge fan of Diaz, like I think people are overlooking Diaz in this fight. I'm not really
Really?
enter- I'm not really in I'm not really entertained by this Ferguson fight, honestly.
Me either.
Ferguson's got his face beaten the last four fights. If this was any other fighter in the UFC, he's gone. He's done
Yeah. I mean,
after
you look
how
at
bad he's been
your last
losing.
four fights were Chandler, Darush, Darvishes, Oliveira almost killed. He went. I mean, Joey, he did go to decision twice in those fights, though. You
But they
know.
were decisions that the other fighter dragged him out to the deepest end and just beat him.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, were they close decisions, Paul, or were they all?
No, I don't think I'm trying to look for him now, and actually, it was no, it was a judge's card, highly favored to let me see, I'm looking at it, to
So this
Oliveira and
last this last
Oliveira
fight, right?
and
This
Chandler.
last fight against Chandler, he got that horrible face kick.
Hmm.
Then Darnu uh Darnush drug him to the deep end, laid on
Hmm.
top of him, and beat his face in
Yeah.
for 3 rounds.
Hmm.
Then Oliveira kind of went on his little run right there
Right.
and manhandled him again on the ground. And then Gaethje knocked him out in the fifth round, but he was manhandling the whole fight on top of that even before the knockout. But
Hmm.
they weren't four close losses. They were four beatdowns. This is any other fighter. He's not here. And now we're getting him in the co-main event. It makes absolutely no sense to
Do
me.
you remember Ferguson's last win, Joey? Do you know who it was? We lost Joey for a second. He'll hop right back on. But just as Joey said, Ferguson has lost his last four fights. His last one was a KO kick, of course, and then he went to decision with Oliveira and Dudush. He lost. Just Joey right there. The hell happened, brother?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay, all right. It's probably that fantasy football team you picked is just BS. They kicked you off for that reason. But
Right. That
I was
fantasy
saying, do you
football team
remember?
is the
Do you remember
best.
his last win, Joey? Do you remember Ferguson's last win? Who it was against?
Yeah, Donald Cerrone.
That tells you something right there.
Yeah,
Like
it's a while ago, right?
yeah, I believe it was. I was just looking at it a little bit earlier today. You're looking at 2019, Joey. 3 years, 3 years and 3 months was his last win, Joey. His last win.
That's
So,
crazy.
what do you think about Ling Ying here? Do you think he has a chance here? I mean, he's coming off of a win versus Salik. I forgot how to pronounce his name. His first name is Muslim, actually. But I mean, he fought Chamaya also, but he lost in a rear naked choke, of course. But how do you feel about this one? Do you think? I mean, this match here really doesn't float my boat, honestly.
Yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, I'm always excited to see a Tony Ferguson fight. Don't get me
Hmm.
wrong,
Right.
but eh, in terms of overall, it doesn't really do it for me.
Well, who are you going to take, Joey? I know this is coming up here. Who are you going to take? I'm going to take Jingling.
I'll do Ferguson just to be ballbuster, take the other fighter.
All right, good. Well, I think I'm going to win that one, but we'll see. Well, hey, we do have one fight, Joey. I mean, it's one of the biggest names out there, just like you said, Nate Diaz versus Chamaya here. What do you think? I mean,
This fight to me
Chamaya.
pisses me off. It
All right,
really
well, you
does
know what? Vent to me, Joey. Vent to the world. Why does this piss you off?
because these people seem to forget who Nate Diaz is. This dude is one of the hardest dudes to finish in the
Hmm.
entire sport of MMA. He is a scrapper who, even when he seems to be outclassed and outmanned in terms of skill and size, he still
Hmm.
finds a way to make it a close fight. And people are I'm reading everywhere that Chimaev is going to steamroll Diaz, and I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure
Okay.
if Diaz gets this fight to the later rounds because we know Diaz has a remarkable gas tank. If Diaz can get these to the fourth and fifth rounds, I think Diaz has a very good shot at defeating him. If you remember that Burns fight was
Mm-hmm.
only a 3-round fight. Those second and third round, right? I'm not mistaken. That Burns fight was 3 rounds, right?
When was this Burns fight, Joey?
It was recently.
I'm trying to look for it, Joey. I don't see that one on here.
Yeah, it was UFC 273. Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns.
Oh, we're talking about Chimaev. I'm sorry. Okay.
So it was a 3 round fight, and he was pretty gassed after that third
He
round.
was. He was. I remember we
Um,
talked about that. Yeah.
so so I mean, let's not act like Chimaev is just gonna run away with this fight because remember in that Conor fight, McGregor was beating the brakes off of Diaz
Mm-hmm.
early on. Diaz was able to weather the storm, get it to the later rounds
And
when
that's when he got the
Diaz
rear naked choke, right?
yeah, when Diaz was
Mm-hmm.
able to still have a gas tank, McGregor had nothing left, and he was able to ground out a win. I think we could see something similar happening here. Diaz is able to
Mm-hmm.
stay alive, make this dude get tired, grind it out, and then get a win. Because here's the thing, Paul. Diaz is one of the best fighters in the world at getting in your head
Mm-hmm.
and shit talking in the ring. He'll slap you right in the face in the middle of the ring, and I can't stand the dude. But he's good at that. That's what he does. And I think Chimaeva thinks that like he goes in there. A lot of these guys he's fighting are already intimidated before the fight even starts. Like, oh my god, this guy's been an animal. He's been mauling people. And I feel like you see that fear a little bit in the ring before the fight starts. You're not getting that with Diaz. You're not gonna intimidate this dude. You're not gonna. This dude's not backing down. He's not taking the first step back. So I'm very interested to see this fight just for the simple fact that people need to stop overlooking Nate Diaz because imagine this, Paul. Nate Diaz, this is his last fight on his UFC contract. Dana White's already said. Now, this was before the Usman Edwards fight, so who knows how it's
Mm-hmm.
going to play out now. But Dana White pretty much has confirmed that this fight will be a title eliminator. The winner of this fight will get a title shot after that Edwards and Usman fight happens. Could you imagine Nate Diaz
Wow.
beating this person that the UFC is putting all their cash into,
Yeah,
Chimaeva?
they basically already crowned him. They basically already crowned him,
Yeah,
Chimaev.
and I think Usman ragdolls Chimaeva if they fight. Personally, I think Usman takes the fight anywhere he wants and
Mm-hmm.
ragdolls this dude. But that's a different subject for a different day. But I think imagine Diaz winning this fight, having that number one contender stake, and not having a contract, and making the UFC pay him whatever he wants. Like that
Mm-hmm.
has to be the ultimate motivation for Nate Diaz right now.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I want to see. I want to say honestly, I really want to see Nate Diaz win this fight, Joey. But I'm totally against what you're saying. I'm gonna go after Chimaev. I mean, you look at Diaz, Joey. 4-6 in his last 10 fights, Joey. 4-6. You
Is he?
know, yeah, he's 4-6 in his last fights, Joey.
Let me
I'm
pull
looking
it
at it
up.
now. He lost against Leon Edwards. He lost against Masvidal. He beat
Okay, so
Pettis.
so
Conor McGregor. Conor
Leon
McGregor is
Edwards beat
101.
him.
Mm-hmm.
Leon Edwards beat him soundly. Here's another
Mm-hmm.
thing though. Leon Edwards beat him soundly, right?
Mm-hmm.
That fifth round, when Edwards was a little bit tired and Diaz was still rolling along, Diaz caught him and almost
Yeah,
dropped him.
he did. He did.
That's why I'm giving a lean towards Diaz. And I'm not saying that Diaz 100% is going to win, but people need to give Diaz a little respect. The people are saying that Diaz is going to get steamrolled and lose is blowing my mind. It's blowing my mind when people would say that. Masvidal was another close fight. If you
Mm-hmm.
remember, um, that fight, Masvidal was manhandling Diaz in the beginning rounds of that fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
He got cut early on.
Yeah, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Round halfway through round two and all of round three, Diaz was holding his own. We didn't see a round four, Paul. That fight stopped after round three
Yeah, it was a
because of the
KO.
ref's decision.
Mm-hmm.
The ref stopped it, right?
Right, right.
Then you have Anthony
Beat
Pettis,
Pettis. That was a
who he beat.
decision. Mm-hmm.
Then a controversial decision against McGregor. He lost.
Mm-hmm.
Some people say he won. Some people say he lost. So right there, Leon Edwards, right? Let's just go back through it. beat him soundly, but he had a chance at the end to win. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's one. That's one loss. Masvidal, he was turning it on, started slow.
Mm-hmm.
Masvidal tired out. Later rounds, Diaz was able to find his groove. Ref stopped it because of a horrible eye cut. That's two right there. He could have had wins, right?
Shoulda, coulda, woulda, Joey.
But what I'm saying is, Masvidal and Edwards have been in these rough waters. They've been in the deep end in the UFC before.
Yeah.
Chimaeva has not been in that stage before. He
No,
has
I
not seen a fourth round in the UFC
no,
before.
I agree
If
with that, Joey. His last fights were third round, first round, second round. I agree with that. The later this fight goes, Diaz has the better fight opportunity to win this. But he has to get through that
but here's the
onslaught.
thing, Paul, that people are looking at. Okay, Diaz is good standing up. He's good on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chimaeva, the way he's been winning is he's been taking people to the ground and pounding them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's smart to take Diaz to the ground. Diaz has submitted people from his back multiple times in the UFC.
When was
So,
his last
okay,
one, Joey? His last one was against Conor McGregor,
Conor
the
McGregor.
chokehold, and that's Joey. We're going back to 2000 before the Conor McGregor one. We're looking at his
Paul
last submission from
Diaz
2012, Joey.
Diaz is one of the better submission specials off his back in the UFC. He's a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He is legit off his back. I don't care when the last one was. If Chimaeva takes him down, Chimaeva has to watch every limb the
Mm-hmm.
entire time they are on the floor. And people seem to forget this because Diaz likes to talk. He has these long bouts where he is battling with the UFC. I want to be paid more. I don't. I want to
Mm-hmm.
be paid more. Where he doesn't fight for a long period of time. People seem to forget, but it's not always all talk with Diaz. Diaz does have skill. Like
I
this
agree.
is coming from the biggest McGregor fan in the world. Like Nate Diaz is a skilled fighter. If Chimaeva puts Diaz on his back, Chimaeva has to watch his limbs. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's legit. I think Chimaeva has to keep it on the feet and hope to win a stand up. But here's the thing. Nate Diaz has some of the best clinch work. Throwing strikes out of the clinch, and
Mm-hmm.
especially when they're separating, throwing strikes out of the clinch. He's one of the best at that. I'm talking myself up. I'm betting Nate Diaz on this fight. Honestly, I'm talking right. Way I'm talking right now. I'm changing my pick. I thought Chimaeva wins a close fight, but I
Well,
think Nate Diaz wins this
wow,
fight
I think you pulled a Tony Ferguson here. I think the voices are getting into your head, Joey. I mean, my God, the voices are in your head now,
because
huh?
people seem to forget though. Like give this man some respect. Like this man steps up in late notices. This man fights whoever
Yeah.
they put in front of him. He always hypes up the fights. He's a great talker. He people need to give him respect. Like this might be his last time you ever see him in the UFC cage. People are just
Mm-hmm.
overlooking this fight. It's really disrespectful.
I'm still, you haven't changed my mind, Joey. I'm going to go with Chamaya here. I think, a lot of people say who has he fought? His record is unclear of who, the crown that they're trying to give him right now. I think I agree with you in some point, Joey. As long as this fight goes deeper, I'm sorry, Diaz has a better chance of winning this fight. I really believe that because we know he can go 4-5. We definitely understand that, but I think the onslaught is going to. I think Chamaya is going to stand up with him, Joey, and I think you're going to see a different fighter here. But I think I'm gonna call this, Joey. I think Chamaya takes him to the ground, and we see a different Chamaya here versus the Diaz. I really do.
We'll
And
see.
listen. If Edwards
Because
can
that
take
last
Usman down for
fight,
the first time in history, Joey, first time ever, I think we're going to see this happen here. Linda says, what did she say? Who are we talking about now? We are actually talking about the main event here, Chamaya versus Diaz in UFC 279. Linda.
that last fight against Gilbert Burns for
Mm-hmm.
Chimaeva
Mm-hmm.
left more question than answers for me personally.
Why?
Everyone
Why?
was because there was a lot of times there. Gilbert Burns is not. Gilbert Burns is good at stand up. Don't get me wrong. But there was times there where Gilbert Burns got the better of the striking a lot in those later rounds. From
Yeah.
halfway through round two on,
Mm-hmm.
Burns got the better of those strikings. Burns was controlling that fight, and I think and Burns is a lot smaller than Nate Diaz. I'm interested. That's another thing we haven't talked about, Paul. Chimaiva is huge for that weight
Mhm.
class. He's
Right.
huge.
He is. Right.
Nate Diaz is also very big. I'm
Hmm.
interested to see in sizes.
Diaz is 170, six
No
foot
height.
170, 6 foot 170, and
S-
Chimaev is 6'2", 170.
So
Two
so
inch 2 inch differential in height wise.
so he's not going to have a huge advantage like he did
No. Mm-mm.
all his other fights. Like for example, Gilbert Burns is 5'10". You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's almost 6 inches difference there between the two. That's huge
Okay.
in in uh in the fight game. I'm trying to look up the other guys he's
All right.
fought.
Well, Linda's husband agrees with it. He's all about Nate Diaz here. I'm going to be the odd man out. I'm still going with Chimaev here. I think this is in a way that Chimaev is going to say, you know what, you want me to fight this guy? He's a legend in the game. He's a warrior. This is my chance to Dana White. You already crowned me. This is my chance to take the crown and say I'm legit. I'm legit. I think it's going to happen, Joey. I think it's definitely going to happen here. I think it's going to be. I think I'm going to call. You know what? I think Chimaev. I'm going on a limb here, Joey. I think Chimaev submits Diaz.
Mm.
I'm going to call it a rear naked chokehold because I'm going back. I mean, we've seen that he can do it. We know he can do it. So I'm going to say I think he's going to rear naked choke just like he did Jingling. I really do. But I think that was a fluke in the first round when he submitted Jingling. That was just too damn quick.
Yeah, he kind. But I'm saying he kind of imposed his will
But do you,
there.
you remember that move, Joey? How he did that? That was an insane move. Like he set that up so quick. I think it was like a jump twist, and it was just I couldn't believe my eyes when I seen that move.
Yeah, we're not getting that against a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt.
No, you're not going to get it. I'm going out on a limb, but I think this fight probably. I don't think it's going to go decision, Joey, because I don't think Chimaev can go the 4 or 5 rounds just
Oh,
like
I
with
don't think
Nate
it's a
Diaz.
decision either. I think
Mm-mm.
if it gets to the fourth round, I think Diaz wins it by a stoppage.
I think so too. I think if it goes past 3 rounds, I think I'm going to flip the script and do a 180. I'm going to go Diaz, of course. Like a live better, I would probably go Diaz 4 or 5. But in the first 3 rounds, I have to go with Chimaev. I really do.
Because
In the
if you
first three.
watch after we're done here tonight, Paul, go watch back that Gilbert Burns fight. In
Okay.
that round three, there was times where Jemaiva was just diving at the feet of Burns to get to take it down because he was so
Hmm.
tired. If he does that against Diaz and he's that tired, I think Diaz willingly lets him take him down and submits him from his back.
Hmm.
It's not impossible, and I just think people need to stop overlooking him.
Well, a lot of people say, I mean, you look at it, basically it's a 4 inch differential between Diaz and Gilbert Burns. They say as a higher, not a higher class fighter, but a taller fighter, you want to take the guy down. You want to take out his legs first, being a smaller wrestler, because you want that, just like in football, you want control, you want
Yeah.
ground control, basically. A lot of people were saying that, but I think this is going to be a stand up fight. That's why I went on a limb and said it might be a choke. I don't think it will. That's my huge, like, out of the box prediction. But first 3 rounds, Joey, I have to go with Chimaev, of course, like I said. But then after that, if it flips 4 to 5 rounds, I'm all Diaz after that point because I don't think Chimaev can go the distance, Joey. Just like you said, he's been taken, but he's taken a lot of punches in the
And here's
in
the
the
thing:
third
he
round.
could shock us all, Paul, and he could have a great gas tank. We just don't know.
Mm, yeah,
He hasn't been in a fight where it's been a 5 round fight. So
that's what I
we
mean.
just don't know. We don't know. We've seen Diaz in 5 round wars. We know
Hmm.
Diaz can go the full 5 rounds. We don't
Right,
know if Chimaev has that in him. That's why we're saying here that if it gets to later rounds,
exactly.
it's in Diaz's favor because there's just an unknown there with him.
Yeah,
We don't know.
he's always been in a co-main event. He's never had that 5 round fight yet. So I'm like that's the elephant in the room. Will he be able to have the stamina, the engine, the gas tank to go the 4 to 5 rounds? Because that is an uncertainty that we haven't seen with Chimaev. I, I don't know. I mean, we've seen things, Joey. We've
He's
seen people shot.
minus 1,000.
Who is Chimaev?
Yeah,
That's insane. That's insane.
that's too much.
That's way too much for any fighter, Joey. That's way too much
That's
for any fighter.
that's easy money there.
That's like a guaranteed, like that. They're saying it's a guaranteed win for Chimaev. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
As a betting person, that makes me want to put maybe a $10 down on a Diaz. You know what I mean?
If I take Nate Diaz,
What is this plus for Diaz?
630.
Wow. What?
If I take Nate Diaz for $10 to win by knockout,
62 bucks.
$130.
$130. Yeah.
because he's plus 1,300 to win by knockout.
for a knockout. You know what, Joey? That might actually be a good bet because if it goes past the third round, Joey, that might be Joey? I'm not on my phone right now. I have my niece has my phone, but what is the odds for a decision either way or go 5 rounds? What is the option for that?
Nate Diaz by points is plus 2,300.
Wow. Okay, guys. One more question: which fight would you tell someone to watch for someone who
That's
has
easy
never
to
watched
make.
it? Go ahead, Joey.
So, The Ultimate Fighter is and now a huge show that's been on for
Hmm.
years for the UFC. The UFC for a little while there was in big trouble. Their viewership was decreasing. They were losing viewership. They were losing fans. Created a show called The Ultimate Fighter.
Hmm.
Um, Ultimate Fighter season 1. It was Forrest Griffin
Oh,
versus
wow.
Stephen Bonner. No, not Stephen Bonner.
No, who was it?
I think. Hold on. Why am I forgetting his name now?
You looking it up?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm really mad at myself right now.
Uh, Stephen Bonner.
Stephen Bonner. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It
Hmm.
was Stephen Bonner. Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bonner in the Ultimate Fighter finale. That was probably one of the best fights I've ever seen. Forget ever seen. That brought fans back to the UFC. So Forrest Griffin versus Stephen Bonner might be one of the greatest fights ever to watch that you would
Okay.
want to watch.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting into it, there's so many, fights out there. Just don't just let one fight avoid you from watching the UFC. I mean, it's something you're going to see if just like with this pay-per-view card, you're when you watch this pay-per-view card here, you're going to be like, wow, okay, we're watching this one, but if you really want to watch some serious fighting, wait till UFC 280. I mean, this fight card here coming up after this one, just like Joey said, we're going 5 deep main events on one
I got a
card.
Philly guy on the
Yes.
main card.
Hmm. It's insane. But
I can go one more, two more. I'll go two more fights
okay, go ahead.
that you can watch. Um, I forget the exact card it was on. Let me look it up. It was McGregor versus Mendez,
Hmm.
189, 189. Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald. One of the craziest fights you will ever see. UFC 189, Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald. It was insane. These guys, like, there was a point where this guy's lip was punched off. Like, it was that
Hmm.
crazy. And then another one would be, and this is probably like the Forrest Griffin Stephen Bonner is the biggest fight in UFC history because it helped rebuild them as a sport.
Hmm.
But my favorite fight that I've ever watched is Shogun Rua versus Dan Henderson. Um,
Wow.
I forget that fight card that it was on, but
Wow.
that fight, I mean, Paul, if you want to talk about great back and forth fights, both guys were rocked. They were just throwing haymakers from the pocket. Like Rua versus Henderson 2
Hmm.
might be one of the best fights ever that I've seen.
What year was that, Joey? That's going way back too, actually.
This was 2011.
2011. Okay, I was gonna say like 2009, 2008.
Yeah,
Wow.
that
Okay.
was UFC 139. That was
Okay.
139. That was probably one of the best fights I've ever seen.
Jeez, there's so many of them actually. Like,
I mean, if you want to go more recent, you could go Welly versus Joanna, the first one
oh gosh,
with the big with the extra
alien,
boob on her head.
alien girl. Yeah, holy crap.
Yeah, that was a good one. Trying to
Wow.
think of another one. I mean, there's
Man.
just so many good ones in the UFC history.
You know, Joey,
Another
I was
good
just I was
one.
just I was just looking online real quick just to look at some of them where they ranking. The number one fight of all time by viewership, from UFC fans alone, was just the one you mentioned, Stephen Bonner versus Warren Griffin, Tough Enough Finale 1. That is publicized as the best UFC fight that anyone, a fan, has ever seen.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do not so much with but the fight itself,
Hmm.
the reason that they're saying it's one of the best ever is because what it did for the sport. You
Right. It
know,
was the
the
first. It was the
Ultimate
first season.
Fighter,
Where we at
the
now? 30. We're at 30 right now, right?
yeah, the last one
And
was
he's
30, but the
actually one of the. He's actually on the show. Forrest Whitaker. Forrest Griffin
Forrest
taking it
Griffin,
all the
yeah.
way back. Yeah, exactly.
So
Yeah.
here's the thing, like the UFC was losing viewership. They had
Hmm.
this reality show they put on Spike. It got views in. Being on Spike and having that whole season and stuff like that, it really generated a lot of views and a lot of people watched that fight because of it. And then
Hmm.
the fight they put on top of that got fans like saying, "Wow, this is a sport that can't miss."
Hmm.
And it was an incredible fight. Have you ever
Yeah, but
seen that fight?
which one? That one, the tough enough one.
Yeah.
I probably seen it a long time ago, Joey, but I remember because they were talking about Forrest Griffin's fights, but I've never actually I don't remember seeing it like live. I probably have to go back and watch that
Yeah, it's really
season
good.
one. Yeah, tough TUF tone one. Okay, all right, but Joey, let's talk about this. UFC. This is not a big card here. Of course, we're waiting for UFC 280. We're definitely waiting for that one. Just like you said, that's 5 main events that could headline any UFC card, Joey. Which we'll definitely talk about that in the upcoming couple of weeks. But there was some shenanigans out there, Joey, from this guy here, Jake Paul. Now he's renamed the Exterminator, Joey. Of course, we know he's going to fight Anderson Spider Silva. But, Joey, what do you think about these antics? I mean, you sent me the picture today. I try to stay away from Jake Paul as much as I can. But I
Yeah,
had
it's
to look at this,
cheesy.
and it's cheesy, but Joey, the man knows how to sell some shit out there, Joey. And my man sells anything that he touches pretty much. And what do you get into this, Joey? I mean, what do you get into the Exterminator man now?
Like you said, he knows how to sell fights. I don't know if any other
Mm.
boxer in the history of boxing before his first 10 fights was able to sell fights the way he is. So
Yeah,
he sells
yeah.
the fights. So you gotta give him credit. He sells the fights.
What do you think, Joey? What do you think the outcome of this? I think this is Sylvan. He's finally fighting someone. I mean, yeah, I know he's damn near 50 years old, but my man, we talked about some gas, Joey. My man has gas still, and I think Silva is the perfect candidate to give Mr. Paul here
Yeah, he's
a taste of
finally fighting
reality.
someone legit.
Yes, I think it's going to be a taste of reality here, Joey. I really do. I mean, what do you think?
Um, like I
I
said,
mean,
I think
I know it's not a huge thing, but it's like,
it's finally somebody legit. So that
yeah.
there's always that.
Hmm.
I don't know what Silva. If I mean Silva's the last guy Silva fought was actually a legit boxer. Like he was a contender at one point for a title.
Hmm.
So he was a legit boxer, don't get me wrong, but I
Hmm.
just don't know. I don't know. I don't. Age always wins. Age. No one's ever defeated Father Times, and I just don't know
It's true. It's
if
true.
Father Time's gonna creep up in this fight. Uh, I think it's the first realistic shot that that he's fighting someone that could actually lose to.
Hmm.
Like Silva was a world class striker in the UFC, but here's again, you can't kick in boxing. Silva was great
True.
with the
True.
feet. Can't do that now. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting. We'll see. Uh, I don't know, but we'll see. Kind of my take on it. I'm
I
excited because if
agree.
Anderson Silva can beat him, you're like, holy shit! You're supposed to be this legit boxer. He's got knocked out by a 40-plus-year-old man. If Anderson Silva loses, okay, well you beat a 40-plus-year-old man. It's a double-edged sword at this point.
Agreed. Agreed. What do you think if Jake Paul loses this, Joey? What happens to his image? He just shrugs it off and goes to the next guy. What do you think?
I don't think anything happens to his image because most of his fans are young kids who don't really understand the sport of boxing and are
Hmm.
only boxing fans because of him. So I don't think it does anything to his image. I think he just goes chucking along and nothing happens to his image, honestly.
Okay. It's funny that we talked about images, Joey. In a couple weeks here, I believe in 3 weeks, I sent you the guy's name, Trayshawn Wiggins. He is a lightweight fighter out of my own area here, Johnstown, PA. He is ranked by the WBA 10th ranked fighter in the world right now. He's a up and coming boxer. We're going to have him live on the show in about 3 weeks. And I actually asked him. I was talking to him. We were chatting a couple days ago, and Jake Paul kind of pisses him off so bad that he's out there trying to make a name for himself. And just like Joey with the wrestling, you put your dues. I mean, this guy trains at Castle Boxing, which is not even 10 minutes from my house. And he's been there since he was 13. He's a hometown boy. He's paid his dues and he's a legit fighter. And he said to me that he's like, guys like this, put me in the ring with him. I'm a nobody. Put me in the ring with this guy. He won't last a round. So we'll have him on the show in about 3 weeks. So
Well, he's definitely not a nobody. He's 10th ranked in the world.
that's what I mean. But as a standpoint of name wise, you look at Trayshawn Wiggins' name, you look at
Yeah,
Jake Paul, and you think like, wow, 3 million followers on YouTube. Jake Paul, Trayshawn Wiggins, 500,000, whatever. You're always going to go to the name draw. But if you're a
yeah.
boxing fan, tune in about 3 weeks. We'll have an update on it. He's going to be hopping in here. He lives local right now. He's training in Orlando right now. But I would love to get to Orlando. So I mean, I hear the weather's pretty good down there. So any thoughts on how to get down to Orlando right now, Joey, real quick before we head out of
Yeah,
here a little bit?
I like that segue, but yeah, for sure. I know we plug it a lot, but it's kids' school starting now. You're gonna have the winter blues coming up, so why
Mhm.
not book a trip for next year? Maybe not next year, but now this summer, because summer is practically over at this point. So the upcoming summer at this point now, because now people are already in fall. I mean, hell, Walmart already has Christmas decorations out.
I,
But
I was just in there today. I couldn't believe it. They skipped Halloween, Thanksgiving, and went to Christmas already.
yeah, so I guess you could say this summer is over. So let's get you on there for this upcoming summer. Get back to Disney.
Hmm.
Um, Clear those winter blues, because you have that trip planned. It only costs $200 down.
Hmm.
To the rest of the trip's not due till 30 days before. Reach out to me. I can get you a price. Doesn't cost anything to give you a price. If it's something we can work out, we can work out. Using me doesn't cost any more money either. The price you see is the price you pay, regardless if you use me or not. So
Okay.
something to think about. Get going. But yeah, like I said, even if you don't want to use me, you just want to kind of get a price, reach out to me. I enjoy just getting prices together. I enjoy planning Disney trips. So,
All right, so cool. Yeah, Joey, where can they reach you at? Personally?
so I have a Facebook page, Joseph Wood / Mr. M House of Travel.
Okay.
You can always reach me on there, message me on there. It's the fastest way to probably reach me.
Sounds good. So it's a free estimate. If you like it, what you're hearing, even if you don't like what you're hearing, say, Joey, it's not for me. Maybe next year, but there is no cost to use your fees. So listen, if you want to plan a trip out there, even for next year, a summer vacation, whatever you want to do, all you gotta give Joey a little bit of money, save the rest of it, and you can pay him later on. So hey, listen, guys, about to get out of here, but before we get out of here, you can check us out next time. We're going to be talking about the Alvarez Triple G fight coming up in 2 weeks. Also, we're going to be recapping 279, leading into 280. So, listen, if you like what you're hearing out there, give us a jingle, give us a like, give us a share, give us a subscribe. But before we get out of here, we are going to talk about all the shows real quick. Of course, you listen to Fight Club 215 every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Tomorrow morning, you have Ken Fry, the Batcave, 10 a.m., talking all New York Mets. Tomorrow night, we have College Football Frenzy with myself, Joey, Mike Loro, and Joe Sullivan. Week 1 was insane, so we have a lot to talk about there. Right after that, 9:30, we have the 215 boys with myself and Matt Klein. We're going to have a lot to talk about. Jason Peters 2.0 here, so you're going to hear so get your popcorn ready for that one. Thursday night, we got Big Mike coming back. 440 Locker Room Podcast, talking Eagles, Phillies, Flyers, Sixers. Friday night, we have his other son talking Big Blue Power Hour with Evan and Stacy, New York Giants fans. Saturday morning, coming back after a long weekend. Out of the Ring Podcast, talking all recapping of both WWE and AEW events. That's Saturday morning, 8 o'clock. And Saturday night, last but not least, Vegas Sports Team with Ken Fry and Rob Hepner talking Raiders, Golden Knights, and some baseball action out there. So check out all these shows. We're going to lead you into the NFL Network coming in this week. And to our proud sponsor, Jake Pine Law, a.k.a. Jason Pine, a.k.a. Big Al. For all your personal injury needs, give him a call. 1-800-HURT-123. You can visit his office down there, 1628 JFK, Suite 2120, right in the heart of Center City, Philadelphia. And also, he has a Jersey office opening soon. Give him a call, 1-800-HURT-123, and tell him the boys from Out of the Box sent you. You'll definitely get the family discount. Can't hurt. If you're out injured, give him a call. So, Joey, anything you want to say in final words before we get out of here, brother?
No, actually, we've covered it all. Like I said, leading up to that 280, we're gonna cover that a lot. There's a lot of good fights on that card. There's a covering that a lot. What are you laughing at?
Look at your screen.
Oh, my name.
Big Daddy Wood.
But like I said, a lot of good fights on that card, so we'll be covering that probably for 2 weeks.
Definitely.
Next week, like you said, we'll be doing the Triple G's fight. 2 weekends. We won't. I don't know. We'll have a fight club, but we won't have a out of the ring because I'll be away. But we'll talk about that in a couple weeks' time. But
That's the 18th, right, Joey?
yes, correct.
That's actually perfect. That's actually perfect, Joey, because I have a Saturday night game, and then that Saturday we have our pep rally for the football team up here. So I probably wouldn't be available as well. So, well, just that's why we asked you to like the page, the Out of the Box page out there. We keep all the postings up there for any new shows or any cancellations that we may have, or any kind of whatever you want to see. We'll keep you posted no matter what we do. So, guys, hey, for myself, Paul Spencer, Joey the Hitman Woods, aka Big Daddy Wood now. We'll talk to you next week. Have a great week, and we'll see you next Tuesday night at 10 p.m.